Oh, actually, he's the boss. I just pay for everything and design everything and make everyone look cooler.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Proper Patch, and today we are going to do a Chroma digitizing design tutorial. We are going to be working on the Ironman zombie patch. It's a pretty complex patch. It's a very large patch. It has a lot of layers to it. So I'm going to take you through step by step every part of the process from start to finish using the Chroma Luxe digitizing software. So let's jump in. Just to remind everybody, the software that I use is Chroma, and I have the Luxe version, which is the highest end tier of the software. So it has all the bells and whistles on the side. But if you wanted to download this software, give it a try, you can see the link below. But the first step is we got to get the artwork into the software. So I just drag my sketch onto the palette here, and you can see that this sketch is very loose. It's not vectorized. It has a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of things that I still really need to fix on it. So it's good enough to give me all the suggestions that I need, but it's definitely not good enough to be able to just click the button and automate it and then just fix a few things. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on this. So the first thing I do is, now it's on the layer here, is I got to get the size right. I got to get the scale of this right. And as you can see, my artboard or my grid is set on inch blocks here, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see here this is a very, very large sketch, so I need to scale this down a little bit to get to where my actual size is going to be. And I think I want this to be a fairly large patch. There's going to be a lot of detail in this, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 inches tall. A little too big. I think I wanted about 6 inches tall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see here. Maybe 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Go a little smaller. Whoops. Scale it down. That looks pretty good to me. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 inches wide, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.25 tall. So that's a really large patch, obviously, but this is going to have a lot of detail in it. It's really just kind of a showcase piece. It's not a piece that I'm probably going to put into production. So I think that's a pretty good size. So now I want to go ahead and lock that background layer. You can see here. So now you can't really mess with it. I'm going to start. The best way to start a project like this is definitely at the top layer, and you want to start with the darkest color, which for me is going to be black, obviously. So the black outline, which is going to be your top layer, it's going to be the layer that's going to print last, other than some highlights. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Steil Tool, and that's going to give me essentially what is a line in the digitizing software. So I'm going to go ahead and just start outlining the whole surrounding area of the patch. So I'm just going to pick a contrasting color like this blue, just so, and I can always change the colors later, but I'll start right here. See here, it's pretty angular. There's not a lot of roundness to it, but as you can see that round piece right there. If you hit down Command, you can, it will start to create a round shape like that. And Ricoma is the company that makes the software for this. If you go to their YouTube page, I mean, they have tons of great videos to help you kind of learn how to use the basics of the digitizing software. And as I mentioned before in my other videos, I do not consider myself an expert digitizer. I just know enough to get the software to do what I want it to do. And since I mainly do patches, I don't have to use a lot of things that the software offers, but it works for me. So that's the outline, as you can see, of the entire patch, which I think looks pretty good. And you can see right here, there's two types of views. There's the realistic, which is this, and then there's the kind of just thread outline. So I toggle between those when I need to see in between or need to see where the line is actually hitting. But Normally I keep it on the realistic, but as you can see here, I think the outline is just too thick. So I want it to be a little thinner. I'm probably going to put it at a 2.5. I think that's a little bit better. So that will be my outline. That should be the thickest line that's a part of this piece. So you can see there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find some of these other angled lines, probably start at the mask side because that's kind of the top layer of the piece. So I want that to be consistent to the top. So I'll go back to my Steil tool. I'm probably going to put this at like a 1.5 because I don't think a 1 is a little too small. 1.5 should be a nice width of a line. And as always, this is just trial and error, just from practicing a lot. So to find your widths, that's kind of what I, just depends on the size of the piece. It depends on, the detail. But I usually live somewhere between 1 and 2.5 as the lines on my piece. So we're going to go ahead and carve this guy out. As you can see, there's still a lot of detail in here that I didn't really get in the sketch. So I'm going to just kind of make it up as I go along. If you make a mistake, it's very easy. You just go ahead and hit the delete button, and it will take off your last point, which is one of the things I really like about this software. Is it does have some nice recovery tools that are fun to use in case you do kind of make a mistake. Since this is kind of a cutout area there, I'm going to use a little thicker line, 2.0. Let's go back to a 1 on that. Nope, too small, 1.5. Back to the Steil tool, 1.5. See what other things. So this guy right here, we should probably connect this. So anytime you want to adjust something, you just click on it here with this the selection or shape tool, and then it will bring you up all the points, and then you can easily go back and make an adjustment. To make sure you click back off of it again. Let's see, so that's that, and then we're going to go back to a 2.0 for the around this eye here. It's a little thicker. Do this, I feel like Bob Ross. We're just going to put a happy little line right here. Nice carve there. So these weights and thicknesses are all something that as I start to fill in, I'll be able to adjust a little later on. So that one's going to be more of a pointed one, so we're not going to do this one yet. So as you can see, when it goes from the cut and the mask, we're going to and then into these kind of the zombie face stuff, we're going to make those more rounded because that's more of an organic surface, whereas the break on the face is and on the mask is a lot more straight. So it's cool to kind of change up your line weights. It's pretty easy. It's a pretty nice shape. Get the core outlines there. All this stuff we're going to do with a fill. Maybe frame this guy out. You know where that is. Do all that with a fill. Do that with fill. Oh, this guy right here. Actually, we'll do that with a fill as well. Got an idea for these guys up here that's going to be a little bit different. All right, so now we got all the straight lines. Now I think, oh, we got these guys right here. So you can see right up here on the stitch count, we're already at 10,000 stitches. So this is going to be a beast. I think this is probably going to get to at least 50 or 60,000 stitches. So this thing's, 4 inches wide, and 6.5 inches tall. So this thing's going to be a lot of stitches. So, but that should also give us the detail we're looking for. All right. So I think we got all the straight lines. Now we're going to go, and you can see here, this is everything. One thing I forgot to do was save this, and I've always make sure with this software that you save everything because it's it does it is a little temperamental and it will crash on you, but they did in the recent updates add some backups to it, but we want to be safe, so it's good practice to save a file. And then, especially after each big iteration that you do, you want to go ahead and save it. So now we got it saved. All right. So next thing I'm going to start working on is these satin stitches, which are basically fill stitches on some type of path or shape. So they actually do a really good job of creating angles and lines, that aren't straight. So I'll show you how that works. So this guy right here, this little scratch. So we're just going to kind of do this. As you can see here, so that's a fill. And then we're going to turn that fill into a satin. So you can see there, it's got that really cool angle. And as you can see in here, you can kind of adjust these angle bars. See, this guy is like super straight and kind of goes that way. We want to make sure that's angled like that. So that creates a nice straight kind of pattern there. So that's a great way to get these kind of more organic, non-linear lines that, scratches and shadows and bumps and things like that. So this part's a lot of fun. Just go in and kind of create, these angles, these little nicks. So convert satin, you can see, very nice. So this part, I'll just go ahead and start adding all these things then at the end, I'll go back and change them all to satin stitches. Oops. This part's so much fun because it really does start to kind of come to life. And as always, if there's something that I'm doing wrong and you have experience in this and you say, hey, man, what are you doing? There's a million other ways of doing that. Please, God, tell me what the hell I'm doing wrong because I'd love to know. But like I said, this has been working for me. I get the desired result that I want. So we're going to go into this eye right here. Let's convert all these and save it. Oops. Let's see. Oh, this was. Whoops. Sometimes I use a Wacom pen. Things get a little dicey. This software. There you go. So now all those cracks and blemishes, they're all in there looking pretty good. Now let's work on this whole area right here, which I think is going to be kind of, actually let's do the teeth. Teeth will be fun. Oh, I missed the guy right here. Oops. Fix this guy. And just so you know, these green and red dots, these are the first place the stitch starts, and then the first place stitch starts, and then the last place it ends. So those are the beginning and end points. All right. So now what we want to do this is I'm going to do a fill for this thick black line. So I'm just going to go through here. Let's see. You know what? Let's see. Change my mind. I'm going to do it this way. Do this whole area as a fill. Then I'm going to cut using the hole tool where these come out. So now I'm going to switch to here so I can see what's going on in the palette, and I can see my outline. I'm going to click on this outline. I'm going to go add hole. Then I'm going to go back to this. Whoops. Go here. add hole, and then I'm going to simply go and start carving out my teeth. And this way it will use a little less stitches, but it's going to take a little bit more time. All right, so now that I've carved out all the holes and I go back to here, now you can see we have all these spaces kind of for the teeth. They're nice and carved out. They'll be all black on the side, and then I can add those kind of shadows in between. That should print fairly well. So let's see what other areas we can do. So this guy needs a fill right here. Once again, this is the organic side of him. This is his zombie face. So this guy we're going to want to make all rounded like that. And there's this kind of like breakage that I kind of drew here that I liked. So I'll add that too. All right, now let's see. So this guy right here, this is kind of where we're getting some edge work. See right there. And like I said before, I'm going to do this as a big fill, and then I'll cut the area out for that red vein. Switch back to here. Add hole. Go back, so that should add that nice little element here. And as you go around, you can see some, there's opportunities to add some edging, some thicker black kind of shadows. Just go ahead and add all that stuff. Here, shadow on his, mask. Fill this guy in just so it doesn't get all weird. All right, let's see what else we got on this eye deal here. So this guy right here, this is a perfect little opportunity for a satin piece. So just before we forget, to satin. As you can see, that one's all junked up, so we gotta fix the angle lines. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Save that up. That was a lot of work we just did, so I'm going to keep saving it. Here's another opportunity for another satin line. Oop. I got a steel. We want that to be a satin. Fix this mess. Perfect. All right. And now we're going to, oops, got another satin one right here. It's interesting. So this has, this blue line, you can kind of see it in here. This is the split line. So because this has this piece here, the machine wants to split, so it's going to do this and then it's going to do that, which is fine. Generally, it's something this small. It's not really going to make a big deal. But you can also change that, and it will affect the print. But that's fine. That should look good. Let's see, any more accents on this guy? Yep, got a few more. Satin lines that we want to add. Oops. Satin line there. Probably a satin line there. And then this will do as a fill. We'll add those little veins as satin lines. So that's a fill, but remember we have some stuff underneath it, so we got to add some holes to it. I generally like to do this right when I do it because otherwise I'll forget. And then there's many prints I've been like left out some details like this that kind of are annoying. So I try to go back and make sure I remember those. Back, and then so we got this guy we want to probably add as a pretty cool. Cool. So what you can do is you can also, since these pieces kind of overlap, you can merge these. Let's see. Weld them to one, and that does sometimes help a little bit with the printing. So now this is all one piece, which is nice. So we'll add these vein guys right here as satin. Oops. see what this did. So once again, got this guy right here. There's your divider line. All right, so it's a lot of work. Save that guy. Got another line here. All right. I think that pretty much covers all the black in the face. Let's see. Let's add some of these fills right here. Oops. Want this to be straighter. Add this shadow. This guy. All right, it's covering up pretty well. So these little vein guys, I think I'm going to make these run stitches. So run stitches are the smallest possible. That's basically a single thread. So if you do a standard run stitch, I always put this to 1.0 so it kind of turns a little better. 3.0, it gets a little jaggedy. But this is the smallest stitch you can get on an embroidery machine. So to make these, and a lot of times I like switching this to, let's see. Let's see, good to go right here. So you can see right there, it kind of creates that kind of veiny look to it. But because it's so small, it does tend to lose some of its structure. You can't pick up kind of turns as well. So I'll kind of redo this guy. There you go. So that should look pretty good. Get this guy. There you go. That should look pretty good. So we got some nice little detail in there with those veins. All right, now let's go up to this piece right here. There's a lot going on here. So we're going to do, once again, I'm going to fill this all in. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut some of these big areas out. And then I think over top, I'm going to lay these veins on. So I'm going to go ahead and add this fill. That. And then time to add some holes. So Try to keep it as organic as possible. Let's make it look like a brain or something. And then we got this dark one here. One more right here. All right, cool. It should carve those pieces out, and then we'll add the other ones on top. So I think that kind of covers all the black accent lines, the black outlines, all the details. Another little cut right here. I think that was the idea there. All right. So, then what I like to do here is, since we have a lot of these fills, we want these to be kind of more on the bottom. So we want these underneath the outlines. It just makes it look a lot better. So we're going to use this tool to move it to the front. So anything that's a fill or run, we want that to be at the bottom. There you go. So there you go. All right, so now you can see the outlines are all on the top, creating kind of that space, and then these fill strokes are, you know, underneath the outlines, which looks always a little better. And then you can always kind of watch, kind of see how it's all kind of coming together here on this timeline. You see our main outline, that guy, we want that to be definitely on the top. So we want that to be the last. Perfect. All right, so you can see there that's pretty much the structure and all the outlines of the entire kind of mask. So the next step, we can turn this to black. Right here, you can see there. Pretty cool. It's got a lot of detail in there. It looks pretty good. All right, so the next thing I like to do, obviously now we're going to go into the coloring phase. So I'm going to go ahead and lock this guy right here. I'm going to lock these two layers right here. And this part is kind of the hardest part, because now you really have to start creating shadows with threads, and that becomes pretty tricky. All right, so just like before, we're going to start with the darkest color next. So as you can see here, looks like there's a nice kind of dark red here. So we're going to select that color right here. So I've kind of pre-selected a few colors, but we'll start with that guy. Okay, so we're just going to use our fill tool. We'll just end it here. Go. So then we'll do some edging work here. See where else this red exists. So we have some over here. Make sure you add some overlap. Don't try to just line it up directly with the black, because then the chances of leaving spaces when it prints are higher. Got this nice big piece here. This is where your thread count starts to get really high. That we've jumped up about 6,000 threads already. Got some shadow here. So these are, I'm going to use probably a different red color for these, because that's not really part of his suit, part of it, part of his mask. That's a little different kind of color. So I'm going to leave that a different one. So now we got the dark red. Now we need to pick a color for the bright kind of Ironman red, maroon, if you will. So we're going to add a color. Then our color palette's going to drop out. And we're just, what I like to do is kind of move right here so you can see the color swatches kind of next to each other. So I just try to find, that's pretty good. Don't want them to be too close, because when we go to print, we're going to want to see that contrast in the production notes. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to tell which color is which. So I'm going to go right here. So now we're going to add and since it's the most bottom layer, it's obviously easy. You don't have to be as precise with it. You just need to make sure that it there's some overlap. There you go. And then lastly, so now we've pretty much covered all of the helmet red. And we're going to put that one below it. Those two go below the black. Go there, and then you can kind of quickly see where we're at right now. So it's looking good as far as covering the red. Oh, we've got the part up there. Make sure we do that. Just drag that guy to the other color. It should pop right back. There you go. So I've added the red. Now let's work on the yellow. Bring our guy back here, and let's pick a yellow color. So we're gonna start with our dark yellow, or our dark gold, I should say. I think is a little darker than that. There you go. Gold coin, perfect. All right. Perfect name too. All right. So now we're gonna do the dark layers just like we did the dark red. Find the biggest pieces, which is nice. Get a good field of printing. The machine likes that because they're not starting and stopping. Get a much even coverage. Oops. Make that gold. You can see here, actually, got to fix this. So you can see here, I covered up this yellow spot. I wasn't paying attention. So now I got to redo that real quick. I could have cut it up and add a hole, but it's just much faster just to redo it. See there. There you go. All right. Gold. So now we got some shadowing here. Start up here. And these white highlights, that will be the last thing, since those kind of sit more on top. I generally like to add those last. Plus, I usually change my mind on some of those, so it's kind of nice to see the final piece. Big old piece there. Let's see, we're growing almost 40,000 stitches now. So it's climbing, which is good. Nothing wrong with that. We're going to move that guy to the back. So see our design come through the top. Now we're going to add the gold, the brighter gold. So once again, it's not exactly the same color thread I'll pick, but once again, I'm trying to create contrast so I can tell the difference once it's time to pick the color. So I'll probably use something a little lighter like that. Oops, click off here. All right. All right, now it's time to fill in the gold. Once again, it's pretty easy now that it's the furthest layer. It's a layer on the bottom, so just pretty quickly just kind of snap it in place. Give it that overlap, safety overlap. And sometimes with the lighter colors, because I usually print on a black surface, a black twill, the lighter colors sometimes tend to bleed through and making them look darker. So I will go back with my white and my lightest stuff and probably increase the density to 0.45. So you can see the lines here. If I go to 0.45, excuse me, 0.30, it gets more dense. It starts to fill up those white lines, so that white line will indicate the amount of fabric that will get to show through. So generally, it's okay if it's dark on dark, but light on dark, you want it to be, fill more thread. So I'll go back and change that kind of at the end as part of my settings before I go to print. But that also, as you can imagine, will start to increase your thread count even more, which means your print will take longer to do, so on and so forth. So, but as far as making it look better, I think it does make a difference. So this is interesting. Since you only have this kind of small shape in the middle, I'm just going to go ahead and just go underneath all of it. I think that's totally fine. I don't think you need to go and make that two separate shapes. Oh, missed a little bit of dark there. No problem. I'll go back and fix that. Add a little bit of dark right here. So that guy is going to go there, and that guy is going to go behind it. There you go. So that should pretty much cover the entire back. The entire mask. So it's looking pretty good. Everything's covering pretty well. The shadows are looking pretty cool. So now it's just really working on this detail of the face. So we're going to jump into that part. This back. So I have my dark green selected here from another zombie that I created, and then I have my light green, my light kind of teal here. So those are the two colors I'm going to use there, and I'll pick this kind of pink color last. I got to find a different color that doesn't match the mask, so I'll do that last. But let's go ahead and start with same thing. Start with the dark. Let's go ahead. There's plenty of overlap there. Remember, this is the organic part of our illustration, so we're totally okay with it not being straight. Want it to look kind of gooey. There you go. And some dark pieces here. This is really where carving out those holes pays off as far as saving time. Cool. So that's the dark. That looks pretty awesome. Let's add it to the back. Now let's go ahead and do our light. Oh, looks like we missed some dark there. No problem. I'll go back and do that in a second. big old piece right there. Cool. Let's see, we got some piece here. I'm going to leave a little strip for this white edging. All right, move that to the backpack. Go back in and add those. Add the dark that I missed right here. Cool. So make sure that that dark gets dragged into its color. Throw a save on it. All right, it's looking good. Now we need to do the green. We'll do the green eye. Not much green on here. Should be it. Oh, got some on the teeth. Got a great green neon color. Looks awesome. For things like this, yeah. All right. Pull this to the front. So as you can see, you can tell just from here, you can see how really starting to build that that lightness to darkness. That's the key, is you want to make sure all that dark stuff's on the top. The light stuff stays on the bottom so there's no bleed through as much as you can. And then the shadows, the shadows and highlights and stuff that can be on the top can be on the top. So I'm going to add these white specks right here, and then I'm going to work on these little vein parts here and then the eyes. So I'm going to add some white. Yeah. And then I often get asked, like, how many layers of thread can be on top of each other, and that really kind of depends, I think, a little bit on the machine. Theoretically, I think it can do up to 5 as far as the layers go. So you can see here, some of these are already, pretty dense with 3 on here, 3, sometimes 4. My general rule of thumb is never really go above 3. I think when you start layering more than 3 colors on top of each other, I think you get chances for thread breaks, especially when you're doing some heavy backing like I'm doing. You get chances for things to, kind of screw up and bleed into each other. So I try to keep it at under 3, and that seems to work for me. So that's just a general rule of thumb. But I think technically it can do up to 5. Just never really pushed it that far. So let's see if I got it. So this is interesting. So I have this dark green part right here, and you can see it kind of probably shouldn't be. I should probably cover that because that's a shadow under his eye. So what I'm going to do here is just drag these dudes right like this. Kind of reshape this a little bit, just like that. So now it looks a little bit more rounded out. So that was something that I just lost in detail, but go ahead and add the white. Oops. What is going on here? Oh, sorry, press the wrong button. Press the satin tool. You always have to watch these little guys right here, because they really do make a difference when you're printing. If you start to see like little white threads show behind when they're not supposed to be there, I'll show you in a second, but that kind of stuff really does affect the overall detail. So you can see right here, you see that little white space in between there, like that is kind of sloppy, and that's the type of stuff when you automate, like you just never know what it's going to do. So just being able to kind of fix those little areas, I think it just makes all the difference in the world. And I want to kind of smooth this out so I can change it. So now it's more of a rounded shape. And that makes it even just that much more organic. Okay. And then up here, easy guy right there, and just a little bit of a edge right here. Who knows if that's going to really show up, but if it does, it will look cool. Put that guy back there. Perfect. All right. So now, before I start adding the highlights on top, which there are quite a few, I'm gonna try to see what I can do with this eye and this ancillary color here. So I think for this color right here, I'm just gonna use this kind of brighter pink, but I'll probably change that when I actually go pick my threads, because I don't really know how much difference I want this kind of bloody kind of gum line here to be from the actual outside of the Ironman's helmet. So depending on the way it looks when I pick the threads, I at least will know that they're two different colors, and I can kind of call the audible when it gets to there. So I'm just gonna pick this brighter pink color, although I don't think this is what I'm gonna go for. Although it does look kind of cool. It does make them look a little more toxic. And then I know I got, okay, so those are the ones in the back. Actually looks pretty neat. And then I know I have a couple on the top here, so I'm going to add these guys as a top layer. And this is definitely, these guys right here, you definitely want to increase the density of them, because now you're taking a fairly light color that's going to be printing on top of black. So I'm going to go ahead and increase these to 3, so you can see how they kind of filled up a little bit. And then I'm also going to take my white, I'm going to increase those to 3. So those are nice thick. So I'm going to take my green, which is fairly light, I'm going to increase that to 3, so I have a nice thick coverage there. So now, some of my lighter stuff is going to be really bright. All right, you can kind of see how that's starting to look. Pretty neat. So another little trick that I might do is I'm going to try to create a little shadow up here. So I'm going to pick my dark green right here, and I'm going to, this is just stuff you just notice, after you draw. But if I add just a little bit of dark there, let's see, follow the contour of the actual helmet, so it's like almost like it's creating a shadow of the helmet right there. So now it should look like there's darkness at the top, so you can kind of see it right there. So that's, those are just things that I don't really notice when I'm sketching, but Another thing might be nice right here is that, should probably create a shadow right there. So I can, add another shadow right there. So that will just create the depth that this thing is sitting behind. Some sort of, layer of mask. So just go ahead and pop those guys off. Hit save. So now you got this kind of nice edge of shadow that's kind of happening here, which I think is really helpful. Cool. All right. So the last part, we got to do the eye, which is going to be a little tricky because that creates almost like a glow. So I have a few ideas for that, but we also got to do the highlights, and then we should be in pretty good shape. So we're going to go back here. Actually, no, let's keep it here so we can see the shape of the eye. So I'm going to pick a pretty bright red. I'm going to pick, let's see, electric red. That should do it. All right. And I'm going to do the outline of this, the wider outline of this eye. All right. So there's the bright red. But I'm going to change this guy to have a higher density. So I'm going to go with 6. So now it's really thin. So I'm hoping that will create some type of fade situation. So it's actually light. You can even probably hop on it a little bit more. So now you got kind of this fade, and then I'm going to add on top of it another one, which is more the actual eye shape. So the theory is that the thinner lines will create a little bit of a fade. But doesn't always work that great. But I definitely want to try it and see if it works on this. I'm actually going to make this, yeah, okay. So the next thing, so now that we kind of got all that done, I'm going to start, we should add, so it kind of looks like it needs some type of shadow under here. Let's see. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Maybe even a black one. Create some more depth for that eye. Now we've just added a whole bunch of stuff to this, so we got to make sure it all gets to the right spot. So we're going to put our blacks to the top. Oh, sorry. Kind of back there. Oops, that's right. That goes on top. And then I think that last piece that I just added, I think I'm going to make this a satin. No, you know what? I don't like that. I'm going to take that out. Bye-bye. Just leave it as a color. Let that gradient do what it needs to do. All right. So now we're going to add some highlights to the piece. So now we can kind of see where we are missing some highlights on this end. So all this stuff is going to be on top. And yeah, let's see. Got some there. Got some edging work, some nice edging work here. Fix that a little bit. All right, so now that I've added all the highlights, I double checked all my stitches, my fills, all the ones that I picked to be satin stitches. Everything's looking really good. This is essentially what the final product will be from a thread perspective. So the last thing I need to do is double check the instant replay here. So making sure that the builds thread by thread are coming in correctly, starting with the lightest colors at the bottom, and that there's pretty clear overlaps where they need to be and not much is shining through as far as the negative space. And then eventually it makes its way to the black, the outline, and then finally with our highlight veins on the top. So everything looked good. The instant replay looked great. So the next step is printing out our production sheet. So you can see here, this will give you the exact size, all the specifications of all the settings that we already started with. And then here are all the different color changes. So you can see very clearly which ones are happening and when they're happening. So when I go and pick the actual threads, I'll know exactly which thread it is and how to match that up correctly. So that would be the final step before we print on the embroidery machine. Well, thanks for joining me. If you have any questions or comments, please place them below. Subscribe to my channel or follow me on Instagram at The Proper Patch. And if you want to start a patch collection of your own, visit theproperpatch.com, where I have all the patches that I've made there for purchase. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.